know that part of the deal was you had to have sex with this guy?
I didn't know at first what was going to happen, especially that first night, because
Beneath one of the most famous party houses in Hollywood, there was a place where secrets weren't just kept but recorded, stored, and used to control people. When Hugh Hefner died in 2017, the world mourned the man who built an empire around the idea of freedom and pleasure. But what they didn't know was that his basement held something far darker than anyone could imagine. Hidden cameras, secret tunnels, mountains of recordings, and evidence of crimes that would take years to fully uncover. This isn't just about parties gone wrong. This is about a system built to trap people. And today we're going deep into what really happened beneath the Playboy Mansion. Hugh Hefner was born in Chicago back in 1926. His parents were really strict. They didn't believe in showing affection, going to movies, or even talking about anything related to romance or intimacy. Their house was cold, filled with rules, and completely joyless. For a kid growing up in that kind of environment, it must have felt like living in a prison. Hugh later said that this lack of warmth made him crave freedom in every possible way. Even as a young boy, he would secretly draw pictures of women in revealing clothes. Something inside him was already rebelling against the walls his parents had built around him. He was actually really smart. His IQ was measured at 152, which is considered genius level. But his grades in school were just average because he didn't care much about fitting into the system. Instead, he poured his energy into creativity. He started writing his own comic books, where he was the hero going on wild adventures. When he was 16, a girl named Betty broke his heart really badly. That pain changed him completely. He started calling himself Hef, changed the way he dressed, and created a comic series about his own school life. It was like he was rewriting his own story to deal with the hurt. In high school, he kept pushing himself. He started the school newspaper, drew cartoons, sang in the band, and joined student council. He was always performing, always creating. That heartbreak from Betty never really left him. It just made him work harder. After graduating, he joined the Army in 1944. He trained with rifles and earned a sharpshooter badge, but he never went to war. Instead, he got a desk job in Maryland because he could type really well. He spent those years chasing women and drawing cartoons for military newsletters. He always said that if he had seen combat, he might never have created Playboy because war would have changed him too much. After leaving the Army, he went to college and studied psychology along with art and writing. He worked so hard that he finished in just 2.5 years. He became the editor of a humor magazine on campus and started a section called Co-Ed of the Month, which shocked a lot of people. It was a hint of what was coming. He even went to graduate school for a while but dropped out after writing a paper criticizing American laws about intimacy. He didn't want to follow the rules. He wanted to break them. In 1952, Hefner was working at a magazine called Esquire making $60 a week. He asked his boss for a $5 raise, and they said no. So he quit. He was tired of being controlled. He borrowed $600 by putting his furniture up as collateral and raised $8,000 more from investors, including $1,000 from his own mother. She didn't believe in his idea, but she loved him enough to help. He wanted to call his new magazine Stag Party, but legal threats forced him to change the name. That's how Playboy was born. He put together the very first issue in his tiny kitchen in Chicago. The magazine came out in December 1953, and it didn't even have a date on the cover because Hefner wasn't sure there would ever be a second issue. He bought photos of Marilyn Monroe for just $500. These weren't new pictures. They had been taken back in 1949 before she became famous. Monroe never worked with Playboy and never even met Hefner. But that image of her lying on red velvet became one of the most famous photos ever. The first issue sold almost 54,000 copies at 50 cents each. Today, if you find an original copy, it could sell for more than $100,000. The magazine wasn't just about pictures. Hefner included articles about jazz, sports, and even classic stories. He wanted people to know this was entertainment for the mind, as well as the eyes. Famous writers started contributing, The magazine was selling 100,000 copies a month by 1955. But that same year, the U.S. Postal Service tried to ban Playboy, calling it inappropriate. Hefner fought back in court and won. That victory let him print in full color and expand even faster. In 1960, Hefner opened the first Playboy Club in Chicago. People paid money just to get a membership key to enter. The waitresses wore costumes with bunny ears and tails. Behind the scenes, though, there were strict rules. The women had to maintain a certain weight and appearance or face punishment. By 1961, the club had welcomed over 130,000 people in just 3 months. Eventually, there were 40 clubs around the world in places like London and Jamaica. Hefner also started writing long essays called The Playboy Philosophy. He wrote about free speech, personal rights, and changing old-fashioned laws. So, people thought he was brave for speaking out. But others, especially women's rights groups, said he was just using fancy words to justify using women for profit. Protests started happening. Former employees revealed that women working for him had to follow demeaning rules. The hidden abuse was already beginning to surface, even though most people didn't see it yet. By 1964, Playboy went public as a company and was worth $120 million. Hefner still controlled most of it. In 1959, he had bought a massive 70-room mansion in Chicago for $370,000. It had secret tunnels, a pool with a hidden waterfall entrance, and rooms filled with mirrors and lighting effects. He lived there after his divorce and threw wild parties with hundreds of guests. FBI agents actually kept watch on the place during investigations. Years later, women came forward saying they had been drugged, forced into situations they didn't want, and even filmed without knowing. Some of these stories were included in documentaries that came out in 2022. Hefner married his first wife, Millie, in 1949. He had saved himself for her because he believed she was the one. But while he was away in the army, she told him she had been with someone else. That moment destroyed him. He later said it was the most painful thing that ever happened in his entire life. Out of guilt, Millie said he could be with other women too, but it couldn't fix their relationship. They divorced in 1959 after 10 years of marriage. They had 2 children together, Christy and David. After the divorce, Hugh completely changed. He threw himself into a wild lifestyle at the Chicago mansion, dating multiple women at the same time. He even claimed he had been with over 1,000 women. This was the beginning of the lifestyle that would make him famous, but would also lead to so much pain for others. In 1968, everything shifted when he met a young woman named Barbie Benton. She was only 18 years old. Their relationship grew quickly, and she moved in with him. By 1971, she convinced him to buy a huge mansion in the Holmby Hills area of Los Angeles for just over $1 million. That became the new Playboy Mansion. He transformed it into something out of a fantasy. There was a zoo, waterfalls, secret rooms, and a famous grotto area where parties happened almost every night. Celebrities like Mick Jagger came often. The place looked glamorous from the outside, but what was happening beneath it was something else entirely. The mansion had originally been built back in 1927 in a Gothic style. Behind panels in the basement was a secret wine cellar that had been used to hide alcohol during the time when it was illegal in America. When Hefner bought the place, he discovered this hidden space. But instead of wine, he started using it to store something much more disturbing. He put private videos and photos from security cameras around the mansion down there. He even talked about it proudly in a magazine interview in 2011. The stone vaults and trapdoors made people wonder what else was buried beneath the house. In the 1970s, Hefner added tunnels beneath the estate. These tunnels connected the main mansion to other buildings like the game house and bathhouse. This allowed staff to move around without being seen during parties. Some old photographs showed how large these underground areas actually were. One former employee even claimed the tunnels once connected to homes of famous actors like Jack Nicholson, though these connections were supposedly shut down in 1989. The mansion wasn't just a party home, it was a secret world built to hide everything from cameras to celebrity guests. In 1978, Hefner built an underground gym beneath the bathhouse. It had expensive equipment, tanning beds, saunas, and stone showers. He said it was for his girlfriend at the time, but hidden cameras were installed there too. Staff members who worked there later said these cameras were used to record intimate encounters without people knowing. One employee described events where workers were filmed while Hefner watched from large screens in another room. In 2022, news reports said these recordings led to lawsuits from victims who discovered they had been recorded without consent. During the 1980s, the basement was expanded even more. Hidden vaults were used to store videos and documents about secret rooms designed for activities involving substances and intimacy. Some people claim these recordings were used by Hefner to control celebrities and guests through blackmail. One person who worked organizing videos later revealed the vaults held more than 1,000 recordings. The renovations included carved wood, hidden mirrors, and private bedrooms made specifically for these activities. These vaults were like time capsules of Hefner's world, glamorous on the outside, but disturbing underneath. The original stone vaults from 1927 were also transformed into hiding spots. They had been built in that Gothic style with pointed arches and thick stone walls. Hefner filled them with more videos, including some of the most shocking recordings. One staff member claimed there were over 100 recordings of celebrities stored in special safes that controlled temperature and humidity. Some of the oldest recordings dated back to the late 1970s. The vaults mixed old architecture with a new kind of darkness that stayed locked away until long after Hefner was gone. In 2022, a documentary series revealed even more disturbing details. It said Hefner had cameras set up to record women during parties without their knowledge. A former girlfriend named Sandra Theodore said he used the videos to control people. She said he kept a mountain of material in the basement and that he would brag about having recordings of everyone. Other people who worked there said cameras were placed in bedrooms and that Hefner watched everything on live screens. These revelations showed he wasn't the fun-loving character people thought he was. He was someone who used power to trap people. The same documentary claimed that during the 1980s, Hefner helped run secret houses across Los Angeles. These homes were used for parties and activities that didn't fit the Playboy image. A doctor who was close to Hefner allegedly helped bring women to these places under false pretenses. One woman in 1985 was reportedly given substances and brought back to the main mansion. Records in the basement tracked who went where using secret codes. These claims suggested the abuse wasn't limited to one house. It was part of an organized system. Many women also said the basement stored large amounts of substances. One former girlfriend said there were containers filled with hundreds of pills and that staff handed them out before parties. In 1976, one woman was reportedly given something without her knowledge and left unconscious for hours in the basement. These stories came from former assistants who said pills were everywhere during the late 1970s and early 1980s. One girlfriend said she was given something in her wine in 1978 and didn't know what had happened until the next morning. Even Hefner's FBI files were hidden in the mansion. After he died in 2017, people found documents in the basement showing that federal agents had followed Hefner in the late 1950s and early 1960s. They thought Playboy was breaking laws, especially after publishing certain photos. In 1963, Hefner was arrested but won in court. There were even requests to wiretap his phones. These files showed Hefner had been walking a dangerous line since the very beginning. Hefner married one last time in 2012 on New Year's Eve. He married a woman named Crystal Harris, who was 26 years old while he was 86. They had met at a Halloween party in 2008, and she moved into the mansion. But years later in her book published in 2024, she revealed what life with Hefner was really like. She said she felt trapped and controlled. He made her follow strict rules about what she wore, how she looked, even what color nail polish she used. She wasn't allowed to gain weight and had to color her hair quickly if her roots showed. She had a curfew like a teenager. She said intimacy became mechanical and almost non-existent after 2014. The mansion was full of mold, birds, and junk he refused to throw away. When he died, she inherited nothing. That marriage showed a darker side of Hefner, one that was about control, not love. On September 27, 2017, Hugh Hefner died at 91 years old from a serious infection. He passed away at the Playboy Mansion surrounded by family. But what shocked many people was where he chose to be buried. Back in 1992, he had spent $75,000 to buy a spot right next to Marilyn Monroe's grave. She had been on the cover of Playboy's very first issue in 1953, shown without her permission. Hefner had never met her in real life, but he was obsessed with her. Some people were disturbed by his choice to be buried beside her. They said he was treating her like an object even after death. It felt like he was trying to tie his legacy forever to the woman who helped launch his $200 million empire, even though she never agreed to any of it. After his death, things didn't end. In 2018, a former playmate sued his estate. She said she had been assaulted in 1980 and that the whole thing had been recorded on one of the basement recordings. She wasn't the only one. By 2022, there were more than 10 lawsuits, including one from 5 women asking for $10 million. The vaults in the basement supposedly had more than 1,000 hours of footage. Some recordings showed scenes from as far back as 1979. Many of these cases ended in quiet settlements, where victims received money in exchange for not talking publicly. Crystal Harris also revealed that Hefner pretended to have health problems to control her. She said he faked back pain and hearing loss so she wouldn't leave him alone. She said he made her follow strict appearance rules while she was dealing with her own real illness. Other women backed her up, saying Hefner used guilt to keep them under control. These stories showed a much darker side to the man people once thought of as just a fun party host. Even after his death, he was being remembered not as a fun icon, but as someone who manipulated people using whatever tools he had. Back in 2010, Hefner created a foundation in his name. He gave millions to film preservation, free speech causes, and education programs. He supported university work on censorship for 20 years. The foundation gave awards every year to people fighting for First Amendment rights. By 2017, Hefner had also donated to disease research. Some people saw this as an attempt to change how people remembered him, even though he had spent decades living a life of parties, scandal, and control. His donations told a different story. Maybe he was trying to make sure history remembered him kindly instead of truthfully. In 2016, just a year before he died, people started noticing Hefner was getting worse. Some said he was showing signs of memory problems. That same year, he sold the Playboy Mansion for $100 million to a young man whose father owned a snack company. The mansion had been bought by Playboy back in 1971 for just over $1 million. It was huge, covering over 22,000 square feet, and had a zoo license and the famous grotto. But by 2016, it was falling apart and needed major repairs. The most shocking part of the deal was that Hefner got to keep living there for the rest of his life. Playboy paid $1 million a year to lease it back. People started to wonder if he was too weak to move out at all. This arrangement revealed the truth. Hefner's empire was crumbling, and the man who once ruled parties now rarely left his bedroom. The Playboy Mansion basement held more than just secrets. It held evidence of a system designed to record, control, and manipulate people for decades. It held recordings that would later be used in court cases. It held FBI files showing how close Hefner came to serious legal trouble. It held the truth about what really happened beneath the glamorous surface of one of Hollywood's most famous addresses. And even though Hefner is gone, the consequences of what happened in that basement are still being felt today by the people who lived through it. So what do we take away from all of this? The Playboy Mansion looked like paradise from the outside. Celebrities, parties, luxury, and freedom. But underneath it all, literally underneath in the basement, was a place where people's privacy was violated, where control was maintained through fear and recordings, and where the fantasy hid something much darker. Hefner built an empire on the idea of freedom. But the people who lived in his world often had none. The basement of that mansion held more than just secrets. It held evidence of pain, manipulation, and crimes that took decades to fully understand. If this story shocked you, you're not alone. It shows us that things aren't always what they seem, especially when power and money are involved. The truth about the Playboy Mansion is still coming out even years after Hefner's death, and we may never know the full extent of what happened there. But one thing is clear: the basement held the real story, and that story is far different from the one Hefner wanted the world to believe. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. This was a heavy topic, but it's important to talk about. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, please hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear this story. And if you want more deep dives into the hidden truths behind famous people and places, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps us keep bringing you content that matters. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.